Do you know who I am?
No, I can't say that I do.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Really?
People know me.
I'm very happy for you.
I'm very important. Many leather-bound apartments. Smells of rich mahogany.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It is February 15th, 2022. This is the Voice of Reason podcast. Today, I am, as usual, joined alongside my co-host, Mr. Andy Van Beber. Our good friend and co-host, Travis Kirkendall, is out of the office today, dealing with his move. So best luck, Travis, as you are dealing with the stress of moving. However, we've got two sorry sons of bitches that we love to death joining us this evening. The boys from 4 Deep Sports. Zach, Daniel, how are we doing tonight, fellas?
Pretty good. Doing well.
Doing great. Thanks for having us on.
I just know that, as usual, there's certain gentlemen who can make my pants dance, and I'm trying to keep it all in right now. I'm not going to promise anything for the rest of the night, but when my boys are on, two of my favorite seniors. I mean, you do the trifecta if you brought in Big Ev Loggeman. My night would be complete, and that would be it. But we'll go with this. And so, what do you guys tell us? What you guys been up to? How's your school year going? Stuff like that.
You go first, Sauce.
It's been going great. About the 5th weekend, so just over a quarter of the way through. Classes starting to heat up. Been taking exams lately. Homework's starting to get a little tougher, but honestly, I'm enjoying it. This semester's going a lot smoother than last semester. So obviously, right now, just looking forward to get to spring break.
So are you guys? So do you guys? So you're in full in person right now?
Full in person, no mask, no nothing.
D. Harv, what about you guys?
We're not so fortunate. We started out virtual the first 3 weeks, and then this is our 3rd week in person, but we wear masks in class, and it sucks. But we used to have to wear them in the dorms and everything, and now we're finally allowed to not have to wear them in the dorms. It's just in the classroom, so you get used to it, though.
Yeah, so you guys... So have they said anything to you, Daniel, about, is there going to be a timeline of maybe just getting rid of it altogether? Or are they still playing pretty cautious or anything like that?
I'd say the rest of the semester we'll probably have it, just because they haven't even mentioned taking it out when we're in the classrooms or if you're in like a meeting room or anything like that.
And
so I think we're stuck.
So what's a Mizzou basketball game looking like? If you go down to the stadium, are you guys having to wear masks down there then, or is it?
No, there's no mask, nothing. You won't find a whole lot of people down there, and it's not for COVID reasons. Just Mizzou men's basketball.
14. What are they? 10 and 14 right now. I think I saw.
They're getting killed right now.
They're down about 30 to Arkansas.
Yeah, women's basketball team is solid though, but the men's is.
Now the girls, are they still? They're still in the top 25, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, they might be. So. I haven't checked. I don't check the rankings daily.
Yeah, I tell you what, they were. I watched a little bit of that South Carolina game when they knocked off South Carolina, and I thought that was a pretty exciting game. And one of our former students at Clopton, 2 of them, their cousin, what's her name? It's Haley.
Haley Frank.
Haley Frank.
Yeah.
Yep. And she's a fantastic player. Sean, how was your weekend, Sean?
Weekend was extremely busy. Went really, really well. Some cool news out of our household a couple weeks ago. I can't go into too many details, and I wish I could say it was like an extremely big project. It's not. But it still is a pretty big, exciting project for me, at least. I auditioned for a certain project through my agency, and actually did a callback, did that read, and got the part. So that was some cool news that I got over the weekend. Yeah. And so, but other than that, no, it was pretty hectic. It was my niece's first birthday. So Saturday was a lot of driving. Sunday was kind of a day where catching up on homework, watching the big game, and kind of spending some time with the girls. So as we were kind of rolling into this week, which has just been like crazy nonstop work, this is probably the last 2 weeks have been the busiest that I've been with work in a long time. And it's definitely like wearing thin, but other than that, it's good. Before we kind of deep dive into our conversation, for our listeners that haven't kind of heard us before, Zach and Daniel run a social media group called 4 Deep Sports. And guys, I know that some of our listeners definitely kind of know what that is, but I would like for you to just for the next couple minutes, just kind of give us the rundown on what you guys do, where our listeners can find you, and what up and coming stuff you guys have.
Daniel, you want to take this one?
Sure. So we started off we were just doing like pizza reviews and food reviews, and we had talked about having a channel or a Instagram page to be able to just talk sports, post our thoughts on sports. We did that, talked about it for a couple months, and then we finally started doing it, and people seemed interested, and we kept doing the pizza reviews, and we've kind of gotten away from them, but I think in the next couple months, while we're here in Columbia, we got to knock out a couple more. But I mean, all 4 main sports, really, we cover them all. And yeah, you got anything you want to add, Sauce?
No, if you're a sports fan like us, just give the page a follow. It's 4D_sports at Instagram. We usually post content daily. We'll do a lot of Q&A stuff on our Instagram story.
I am showing the page right now, boys. For those who are following us on Facebook Live, here's where it is on Instagram. That's kind of what you'd be looking for here. So definitely look them up.
Yeah, we just want to use our platform. Like, there's not a whole lot of like local sports kind of talk thing. So, we look at this as, a chance for people like our age and just around, the area. And we're kind of really trying to grow our brand to get on there, talk sports, exchange thoughts and see how everybody's feeling.
So is 4 deep, does that refer to how many inches deep you guys are able to go max, or where does that
pass it up?
Believe me, Sean, I wish it was that case, but
4 inches deep after 4 strokes. I get you. I've been there. Trust me, I know.
Well, only 8 minutes in, and that didn't take you long at all. That didn't take you long.
No, it never does. So, well, that kind of brings me to my, the topic that we're going to kind of talk a little bit about. For some of our sports fans, we do have, I can assure you, next week we're probably going to deep dive pretty hard into some of the political stuff, the atmosphere. We're going to take a little bit lighter approach to this week's episode and kind of talk with the 4 Deep Sports guys about a couple different things. I've got some questions I'd love to get their insight on here in a bit. But the first and foremost was, how did you guys like the Superb Owl, the big game? What do you think of the commercials? How about the halftime show? We'll start with the game. How did you guys like the matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the formerly known as St. Louis Rams? How'd you guys like the game?
Well, I wanted to see the Rams win because the Bengals beat the Chiefs. I had to root for the Rams, but I kind of figured it would be a close game, and I thought up until the end, it was called pretty evenly. Maybe the last drive there were some questionable calls, but I mean it's NFL, it's a Super Bowl, so it's kind of to be expected at this point, I guess. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good game.
What was the
contrary to what Daniel said?
Yeah, go ahead, Sauce.
I thought this would be a blowout. Rams they're giving the Bengals 4.5 points. I thought the spread should have been bigger, and I think it would have been bigger had not the injury of Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously unfortunate tearing his ACL. He was, going off. He was going to have a great game. He already had 2 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown, and 1 moonwalk in the end zone. Obviously, that guy, you heard for him. He was on the biggest stage. He's worked hard, but I think the Rams really struggled to do anything outside of, airing the ball out. Matt Stafford threw 2 picks. kind of gunslinger turning the ball over. That's kind of his thing. But I think the Bengals defense is really what surprised me the most. We knew the Rams were a great team coming to this. And Joe Burrow just, they talk, Joe Burr, Joe Shiesty, whatever you want to call him. He stayed really poised the whole game. Came down, as Daniel said, there were some questionable calls. I will say that I agree, but if you're a fan of the Bengals and you think that you didn't get away with a no PI there on T. Higgins on the first play of the second half, then I mean, both there's going to be controversial calls, no calls, but for the most part, I think the refs really bit their whistle, didn't really throw a lot of flags out there. There wasn't a lot of laundry, but
what about that?
It was a great game.
Well,
I thought it was an excellent game.
I want to start with that. So I'm already hearing, is Odell Beckham done, do you think? Was that his?
So.
Huh?
He's way too good.
Yeah, I
think he's too young and too good.
Granted, that he's already torn that ACL in that knee.
Right.
But I think he set himself up for a massive payday. Hopefully, if he can come back next year and recover, or the year after that, but he's going to get paid. He came to the Rams on a prove-it deal. I know we posted about it. He took his whole salary in Bitcoin, which honestly came back to bite him.
Wow.
Because the price of Bitcoin has dropped like 50%, starting to rebound a little bit. But he's a dude that his whole career, they talked about him being a distraction. He was going to be a problem. And then when he came out to LA, they said the same thing. But, he just showed up, man, throughout the playoffs and towards the end of the season, was really having a great postseason. And just unfortunate, he tore his ACL, but the rumors are saying that he'll take a discount on his paycheck to come back to the Rams and try to win another Super Bowl. So I believe that he's fully committed to coming back for next year and then the years to come.
Well, and that's what I was thinking, though. You're mentioning, and that's where you actually beat me to the punch. Tearing that same ACL. I mean, and of course I have no idea what that pain is, but I mean, is this? I mean, so he'll be ready again by season. Wouldn't you say?
He probably wouldn't be ready. I would say, in all likelihood, because it's his second ACL MCL injury on that knee, with him being a pretty explosive receiver. The earliest I personally think the earliest we could maybe see him back would be mid-season, which if he does take a discounted deal for the Rams would benefit. With an injury like that, especially when he's 31, 32 now.
And this is his third different team, correct? Giants, Browns.
Giants, Browns, now Rams. Yeah. And the thing is, with a lot of these teams, like when you look at the success that Tampa Bay had last year, bringing in a lot of these veteran guys on, minimum deals, now that the formula had proven successful in Los Angeles, there's an opportunity that more individuals might take those kind of deals, especially like vets. Vets are going to go where it's warm and where they're going to want to play. If they've already made their money, why not take the discounted deal and go to where you could possibly chase the ring? The issue is there's the chance that they lose their head coach potentially. I don't think he retires, but that's kind of like what the ramblings are, is that he's going to retire. But as far as that Rams team, again, they're going to have to adjust because the salary cap next year does not look good for them. Which is something that they'll need to get squared away. But at the end of the day, once you win, once you've proven there is a recipe for success, a lot of times you'll see the Patriots were able to do it year after year after year after year, is that guys will restructure deals and they will make deals work to where they can go on to win. You have teams like Kansas City who have, their quarterback on his rookie deal, and they have guys they go in and win the Super Bowl that don't restructure contracts. They sign max deals. Now they're not in the Super Bowl. It's a proven fact. If you go back all the way to 2000, there have only been two teams, two players, I should say, on 3 different occasions where the quarterback of a winning Super Bowl team took up more than 11% of the salary cap. That being Peyton Manning when he went to the Broncos, and that being 2 different years of Tom Brady in New England. If you have a team around a good quarterback, you have a chance to win. But the minute that you go eggs all in a basket on a quarterback that doesn't take a team-friendly deal, you're starting to see it's where teams are struggling. That's why you had guys like Kaepernick, you had guys like Mahomes, you had all these younger quarterbacks that were able, like Joe Burrow, that are able to take teams to the Super Bowl during their rookie contracts. The second that they get that big contract deal, it's where you see teams start to struggle. Once you pay a guy all the money, the pieces around him, it just makes it harder for these teams to get depth and to go deep in the playoffs.
Don't you think that one of the things and we saw this with the Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl, and it was exposed again with the Bengals this year, is that the Bengals have to do something with their offensive line. With Joe Burrow having, what was it? He tied the record with Roger Staubach with 7 sacks. Was that the right number? That he said that he tied with 7 sacks. I mean, and still he did as well as he did. I don't know what his final stat line was for what he went for, but if you're Cincinnati, other than offensive line, what do you guys think? What's the Cincinnati got to look at to repeat again next year? What's areas you guys think that they need to work on?
Offensive line, man. Like, we were sitting there watching the game, even they've got a really nice trio of receivers there, and they got a solid running back in Mixon. But I mean, offensively, that's about the only thing they could really use. The O-line, I mean, it's the worst in the league in terms of sacks allowed throughout the season. That's pretty bad. To get to the Super Bowl with that O-line is really impressive. I got to be honest. I mean, for Joe Burrow to do that in his second year is really impressive. So they definitely need to go out and get at least one O-lineman in this draft. I mean, probably the first-round pick is, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Sauce, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with Daniel. I mean, I think they should take 2 or 3 picks, or 2 or 3 linemen in the upcoming draft, and really look at a long-term investment with some of these tackles and guards in the market. You know, we talk about I'm trying to think of the Chiefs linemen tackle. They just got, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, but there's 2 premier tackles coming out in the market during this free agency. But they definitely need to look at that and invest in that area, because that looks like that's their only Achilles heel. You know, like Daniel said, they have a trio of great wide receivers, and they're all relatively young on pretty low deals. Same thing goes for Joe Burrow. You know, he's on his second year. He is a little bit older, though. We talk about, you know, Joe Burrow is 25 years old, I believe, which is much older than the average
25.
age.
Because he transferred from Ohio State, correct?
Yes, he transferred from Ohio State to LSU. And then just the O-line, the defense is solid. If you look at, you know, it's there's not a whole lot of big names to jump off the page at you, but when you look at their draft order, a lot of them, you know, second, first, third round picks, you know, just studs. Obviously Eli Apple's a problem at corner. So they need to look, you know, at a cornerback, but definitely the O-line is going to be the focus of their free agent spending and their draft.
Well, when I looked down this roster, okay, so first of all, you know, Jamar Chase, you know, to me, and I tried to watch, you know, I like watching on, you know, the NFL Sunday Ticket and watching the Red Zone channel going back and forth. And this Jamar Chase just came, I mean, the kid was phenomenal and making catches that I saw him make, especially in the Chiefs game. I mean, he manhandled the Chiefs, and the Rams came. I thought the Rams came to work on him. You know, he did get a couple really decent catches. You know, you've got, like you said, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, you know, and all these guys. But yeah, Eli Apple was a, you know, that was the big time Achilles heel. And you mentioned one other. You may have mentioned it, and I just didn't catch it. The uncalled, and I think it was Jamar Chase. It may have been wrong. Who got the reception, but he pulled.
It was T
It
Higgins.
was T. Higgins, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so okay, you're right. That was T.
It was
Higgins.
bad.
And we have a history of having so many of these calls. I'm reminded of what was it, 2 years ago or 3 years ago in the playoffs with the Rams, that interference call against the Saints. And I mean, you look at all of these different. And then the blown call, what was it? What was it that got that one group of refs out of the playoffs? Oh, shoot.
That was actually when the Bengals played the Raiders.
Yeah.
That was Jerome Booger. Joe Burrow was rolling out, and they had blown the play dead, but it was an inadvertent
that's right. It was in
whistle
the touchdown, right? Yep.
on a touchdown, yeah, when he was clearly, inbounds, and they blew the play dead, which resulted in a touchdown, but then they just called it an inadvertent whistle, and let the play go as standard.
So is this going to be something looking forward? I mean, what kind of adjustments have we heard? I mean, obviously they're going to have to revisit a lot of these rules, and I don't know how often the NFL. Sean, you might know a little bit more about the backside of this. What is when the NFL Rules Committee comes together and they sit down? I mean, do they just look over the footage of the whole year and say, okay, we're going to go, this is an area of concern? I myself believe, quarterbacks need protection, but at some point, it's like we almost need to lay a pillow underneath them so they hit their head softly against the. I'm for protecting the quarterback, but with this year and last year, with all these, is he leading with the helmet? Is he leading with his shoulder? Is he, at some point we're getting away from, I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
So, I'll be honest with you. This year, and maybe I'm wrong, but this year, I actually thought that the calls on the quarterbacks, there was a lot less of them this year than like in previous years. And mind you, this is coming from a guy that I watch the Packers play each Sunday. And so usually, again, when I'm on Twitter or I'm on Facebook, people are always like, they give Aaron everything he wants. They give Rodgers everything he wants. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of times there weren't roughing the passers calls made late. And usually, you think of top 3 quarterback in the NFL, that's an individual that's going to get those kind of calls made. And I just didn't generally see it. And other times watching other games, I didn't see it as much. But I do know that the Rules Committee, they go over everything in the offseason. And a topic that I'll get to here in a second, because there's another league I want to talk to you guys about. But why officiating? I understand human error. I understand that people are going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. However, there are games that do have these inadvertent big plays, or even not just penalties. Replay system in the NFL is fucking garbage. It has been garbage. It has continued to stay garbage. And again, we'll get to it, but I don't know how much you guys remember of its short-lived 5-week life, but the XFL, their replay system was the best, fastest, streamlined thing I'd ever seen. There was no calls to New York. There was another group of officials in a booth at the stadium with an Xbox controller in their hand,
and
multiple television screens to where they could see each angle. And it was solved within 30 seconds. When there was a questionable call, they'd literally rewind it. They'd look at it and be like, no, y'all screwed this up. And you would hear the communication live. That was one of the coolest things about being at the games, is one of the refs, they'd call it up. And over the speaker system, you would hear the refs reviewing, talking about what they were seeing, and then relaying it to the judge, who would be like, yep, wrong call, plays reversed. And it was that quick. There was no, what people don't realize, when those refs go and put their little head in that box, that is for show. They aren't looking at shit.
I'm going to say they're They're not influencing anything, right? They're just
No, they could look at whatever they want. That doesn't mean anything. The decision is coming from New York. Okay, it is someone else in another state is watching a replay on the camera screens that they're given from the broadcasters from all their different angles and making the determination. That dude putting his head in the box does fucking nothing. Does absolutely nothing. He has no say. So why they even do that to try to like get people to think that that's what's happening is ridiculous to me. It could be streamlined. It could be so much faster. I think they also, a big thing that I hear a lot of people talk about, people forget these refs are not full-time employees. They need to hire full-time employee refs, put them on staff, and that is who they need to go to. If Travis Kelce and fucking George Kittle can put together tight end boot camp, then why can't there be ref boot camp for these dumbass zebras that are going out there ruining games, especially as we move forward where sports betting is going to be legal. It's hopefully going to be legal here in Missouri in the next 3 months. So why
your average
those kind of things aren't being fixed, it's just wild to me.
So according to NFL, or actually sportingnews.com, the official salary for NFL referees has not been disclosed, but as of 2019, it was reported that NFL referees make an average of $205,000 per year. Referees do not get paid by a per game basis. Instead, they get paid a flat rate each season. However, if referees are chosen to work playoff games, they can add an added bonus of anywhere of $15,000 to $5,000. So I don't know. What do you?
My opinion is start them younger. Literally start them younger. Like, again, I hate saying it like this, but what was the instance where the Cowboys, when Dak and they had their horrible call where he ran up the middle of the field, and then you had some ref trying to sprint 30 yards. Have refs younger. We need younger refs. It's almost like a dying breed of people that want to be referees. And here's the thing. Penalize them harder on missed calls and pay them more. Have them have a better base pay, but when there's clearly blown calls that are determined blown calls, have them penalized for it. Okay. Or don't penalize them, but have a fucking way that is streamlined, that is efficient to just fix it instantly instead of dealing with like, hey, that was clearly a face mask. We missed it. We're going to reverse it. And I hate the whole, like, again, you get into muddy waters because they tried the whole pass interference challenge for a season and they scrapped it because it was garbage. But at the end of the day, you call a horrible pass interference on Wilson on the same play that the entire Rams offensive line jumps during a false start. That's why there's always going to be that conversation of, oh, clearly the refs had their heads up their ass watching the line, not watching the line, it's a tough job. I understand it's a tough job, but there needs to be a better standard.
What are you guys, now I know you guys go to college, what do you, and I'm noticing this more on, at least on college, on collegiate basketball. What kind of, I mean, you guys are going to these games. Are you seeing older, younger refs? When the games that you guys have gone to, what are you guys seeing on that level?
A lot of the guys are older. And, there's a shortage right now in refs across Missouri for like local high school games because just people don't want to go into that profession where they're, constantly being belittled by members of the audience or the crowd and, fans and coaches, and it's just they don't want to do it anymore. They don't like getting criticized for everything they do. It's like they can't make a right decision. So a lot of the guys have been doing it for a long time, and you don't really see a whole lot of younger guys repping high school basketball games, college basketball games. But there's been an increase in pay a little bit, maybe across the bottom line of like entry level like referees in Missouri. So your junior high games and your like JV to varsity games, you're starting to see maybe a little bit of youth coming in. I know a couple of my friends have gotten their certification and joined the Zebras, but hopefully there can be sort of a reemergence of younger refs in the game, because when you do even watch like professional sports, it seems like you've been seeing the same refs last couple of years. I mean, almost your whole life. I really like to see when, a lot of the girls are on, doing big games officiating. I think that's great for, the profession and for sport in general.
Well, what isn't it right now? And the name that always comes up for me, that of course I've been watching football. Literally, it's the sport that I've watched the longest in my life. But back in the day, this guy Ed Hockley, who was in the league forever, and now his son, I guess it's his son, right? It's his son that is now calling games, and you're
Sean
seeing
Hockley.
Sean Hockley, and Ed Hockley knew how to. I mean, that guy knew how to call a game, and he didn't take any crap. But and I've seen it, even I tell you what, starting out with these, and I coached junior high ball for 10 years, and I watched, and I gave my share of grief to refs. But after a game, I still go over and I talk to him. I was like, look, man, I lost my head. I was totally unprofessional. And, and I've seen, I look at our Clopton's current coach, Tony Francis. He'll give grief to a ref, but at the end of the day, he's going to go over and say, hey, ref, give him smack on the backside and say, hey, good job, and all this other stuff. But yet you go to some of these, and I would hate to go to, I have been to Illinois refs. I don't know how they keep them in their high school games, because the stands are constantly. I've been to dozens of Pittsfield, Pleasant Hills. I've been over to Springfield tournaments. I've been to some other tournaments at other high schools up in the city. And these guys, I mean, and you guys have seen the Snapchats and the Instagrams of all these parents coming down out of a stand and shoving these guys and just throwing. I'm like, at what point can you not act civil enough to where you can, reel it in and not look like a total jackass by, because an angle does matter. You called it, Sean. When you talk about the XFL refs, they have angles that they see things from, and like we talk about the calls that didn't get called by the face mask and all. It's like, okay, we see it. How can you not see it? You could, but it is up to human error, and I think at some point sports fans have to cut refs a little bit of a break, because no, they're getting paid off and all this other stuff. I think that you really insult the integrity of the game. Of course, I'm sure there probably are refs who've thrown games before, but
there are,
Sure.
Well, I mean, what was it like we talked about earlier, the non-existent pass interference call in the Rams Saints game, and then something along the lines of how that ref owned property or something that had to do with like the Rams and was affiliated, like had some affiliation behind closed doors about it, and he's not a ref in the NFL anymore. So I think a big thing is, like you said, V, is people have to understand, like in high school sports, if there's a missed call, there's really not a way you can go back and fix it there.
There's no reversing call.
Right.
I mean, they'll have conferences to discuss something, but most times they don't reverse calls.
But now when it comes to, again, it's because of where we're at as a nation, like moving towards where sports betting is going to be legal. We've already seen there. We have already seen like sports books, like I know DraftKings has before, FanDuel has before, where if there is like an egregious call that is like so blatantly obvious that something was missed or something was called that shouldn't have been called, they will actually refund bets. Now, they're not going to pay out, they're not going to lose their end, but I'm actually fairly certain that Rams Saints game, they, like anyone that had a money over under, they just like, here's your money back, because this was such a huge issue that costed the game. So when the technology is there, when you have the ability to have it streamlined, then that's where it's going to get into muddy water, because now that money, gambling money, is getting involved. And again, that gambling money isn't just for people's pocketbooks. That gambling money is what pays for, in some states, schools, education, that tax revenue is something that these kind of places rely on, and it gets into muddy water.
I don't want to get into that topic, but that's a farce. But anyway, to education. But what?
Thanks, Jay Nixon.
What? Let me ask you guys all, and I want to hear something from all of you guys. What impact you just opened up a Pandora's box there, Sean. What impact is moving forward are we seeing or will we see with sports betting having? What impact is that going to have on the game?
Boys?
I mean, I think it's insane. Like, there's a lot of people I know that they won't watch a game. People watch games just because they bet on them. People who would have never watched sports before. I mean, if there's money to be made, it's going to attract a whole new group of people to it. And I think it's only going to grow the sport. But like we've been discussing here, I mean, you're going to have to really think about it before you implement those kinds of things, because I mean, there's a lot of money on the line with some of this stuff. And if blown calls or thrown games happen, I mean, it can put some people out of a lot of money. And so that's how I think about it.
So
yeah. I know they're discussing, the legalization of sports betting in Missouri right now in the Senate. Obviously something, it can have good impacts, but you have to look at the moral kind of cause behind here. People, gambling addiction is a real thing. In Missouri, you can only bet on the river, which is, decent enough for me. But I think sports betting is probably one of the fastest growing industries in America right now. And you're starting to see even more of that when states start to legalize, mobile betting, not just in the sports book, but once more states legalize, sports betting, they're going to realize there's a lot of money in taxes they're missing out on, if they hadn't legalized it. Mm-hmm. But as far as like player standpoints, there's always going to be, people that are going to stand up for the integrity of the game and not going to, worry about throwing games or, if they bet they're over under on points or whatever. I'm not sure. I saw some tweets dating back to maybe January or February or January, December, sorry, of an Indianapolis Colts player talking about, why can't they bet on their own games?
And then go back. So you're going back to Pete. And I was going to bring up, the whole Pete Rose situation. Pete Rose swore up and down that he never bet on Reds games. But yet, here's one of probably the most prolific hitters of all time in baseball being denied the Hall of Fame because of, you had guys who steroided up and everything else, and they're going to get their nods. And yet, I barely remember because I was on the tail. I was born on the tail end of his career into the early '80s, and I think that if you open that up to, if you do open up to players, you're going to open up quite a big mess of point shaving, stuff like that.
Well, sports betting's already legal in certain states, and there hasn't really been any indication of point shaving by athletes, that play in those respective states. There's a football team in Vegas, an NHL team and a women's NBA team, and they haven't found any reason to think of point shaving or anything of that matter. So honestly, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, going forward. But right now, I don't really have a concern about that.
Mm-hmm. What I want to get back to let's get back to talking a little bit about the game. I promised that our Facebook group that we would mention it. So this week was, what were your thoughts on this year's Super Bowl? We had our choices were enjoyed the halftime show, hated the game, didn't watch. We had meh, and we also had two other. Let me see, what were our other two choices there? We had hated the whole thing and enjoyed the game, hated the halftime show. Of our voters, 57% said they enjoyed the halftime show, hated the game. We had. And then it was split. 21% was didn't watch, and 21% said meh. So, we had a mixed bag with that. Halftime show. So on the non-sports side of things, as a Gen Xer myself, I absolutely, and Daniel, I know you're going to give me some good, because you're my music guy on this scene. But to me, that was probably that was probably one of my favorite halftime shows that I've ever seen. Second only to, and you guys are gonna probably laugh at me, but when Prince did the Super Bowl halftime show in the rain and did Purple Rain in Minnesota, it didn't get any better than that because I'll remember that I'll remember that till I die. But this is going to be the number 2 for me because, wow, what did you guys think of the halftime show?
I thought it was great. Those are some of the guys. Not really a big Mary J. Blige fan. I hadn't really listened to her music, but Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop, Kendrick Lamar, and even the surprise appearance from 50 Cent. Those are some of the guys I always listened to my whole life. I was surprised to see. I was looking through Facebook, and some of like the old heads just weren't digging it. But I guess they're just not for the culture. They weren't for the culture.
Well, and that's what I saw. I was like, you're talking L.A. You've got to. Compton. That is all about Dre and Snoop right there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other question was this too, and I don't know if you guys have picked up on this little thing going on. I caught a couple of clips on this on YouTube this morning. There's a lot of speculation as to who, as they were pulling out at the end of the halftime show, who did you think it was on the top of the dome? Did you guys see this? As they're pulling out, and you do the look. There is and they're showing, and a lot of people saying, is that Tupac? Because, at first when I looked at it, I thought, when I watched it, I thought, oh, that's just Dre standing up on top. But as you watch, and you can go to YouTube and you can bring this up, and they're saying, oh, that was a shout out to Tupac right there as they pulled out, which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, you are right though. Zach, that man, I hit my I played devil's advocate on Sunday night. I just said best halftime show I'd ever seen. Oh my God, it was like I stepped on. D. Harv, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. I would have liked to have seen Eminem perform one more song, but I can't complain. It was pretty solid.
Yeah, Sean, what were your thoughts?
So one of the first things I saw was some idiot was like, man, I wish, I saw Jay-Z. Why was Jay-Z in the crowd but not performing? And it's like, clearly you don't fucking understand what the point of this halftime show was.
Exactly.
Like the big thing now, obviously guys like Eminem were not made in California. They're made in Detroit. Detroit's never going to have a Super Bowl, nor are they ever going to the Super Bowl. But Matt Stafford went, so they're like, "Fuck it, bring Eminem along."
Come on, that's the only way you're going to get Detroit in the Super Bowl,
right? But people forget, like with Dre was the reason why we have Eminem. Eminem is the reason why we have 50 Cent. So, great show. Mary J. Blige was insane, insanely great. It's just for her to be there was such a kind of that added mix that we needed with hip hop and then what she did during her career. Love Snoop. Dre was great. The only thing I can say was it felt so short, and it might have been because there were
so many
5 different performers. They had time for a song each, where it's like a lot of people didn't like the Weeknd's Super Bowl show. I enjoyed it. Me personally, I enjoyed it, but that actually felt like a concert to me because it was all the Weeknd, and it was like, okay, we're getting all the songs, but I really like the Weeknd, so that's why I enjoyed it. Versus like this Super Bowl show or this halftime show was like song of one artist and the next artist and the next artist. It almost felt like if you go to a festival and you see all the little names at the bottom and they're like, we got 50 people performing in 8 hours. You got, just like they're on and they're off. And it was like, it's almost like drinking salt water. Like you just want more. Your thirst hasn't been quenched. And you're like, when you have like 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Eminem on the same stage, it's like, give them another hour. Like
Right.
they're on the biggest
Literally.
stage in the world. Give them another freaking hour. Screw the game. Like no one cared at that point. But yeah, and so I think that was where I would only say, like, I can't say that it's up there as one of my top. Only, like, I enjoyed the show. I mean, don't get it twisted, but it was almost like getting blue balled, right?
Right.
Like in the middle of it, because you're like, I want a
We
little
wanted
bit
more.
more. You know.
And one of the things that I always hear them mention and during the halftimes, you know, what the time, because your halftime is 15 minutes, but you cannot do a halftime show with the prep. So you saw as soon as those guys got off the field, I thought they showed a lot more of it this year, rolling all that stuff out. I mean, they had guys just pouring in from everywhere. And even with the crew, by my guesstimate, I was kind of keeping a running clock. I counted about 8 to 8.5 minutes, and that was pretty impressive. I thought 8.5 minutes to get the setup done. And so those guys, I mean, it was all like interlocking scenes, get it all put in, and then you give a 12. And so so the replay I watched of the show was at 12.5 minutes. You can go on YouTube and watch the whole thing over again. It was 12.5 minutes for the show. So then you're talking 20. So you're into 21 minutes. Then you have the tear down, which is, so now you've went from a 15-minute halftime, and this has always been the critics of the halftime show. Maybe are you putting the players in an awkward position to where they're almost like getting cold, almost is that, I know how you guys, like whenever we would do like court warming in between games and stuff. I mean, do you guys, both you guys as former athletes, do you see that as is that a distraction, or is it a benefit to have that long of a span for a halftime?
I feel like for an NFL player in the Super Bowl, you're really locked in, but it has to be kind of a distraction. Eminem's out here with 50 Cent and all these guys performing, and you're just in here waiting for it to get over. It's going on, and you're just kind of sitting back here waiting at that point. Unless you're the Bengals kicker, he actually watched it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. McPherson was out there watching the whole show. Sauce, what about you?
But I think.
Oh, go ahead, Daniel. Finish up. Go ahead.
No, I was just finishing up right there. Go ahead, Sauce.
I'm going to go in opposition to you, Daniel. I feel like, on the biggest stage, you want that big performance at halftime. And as a player, I feel like it gives you a little bit extra time to game plan, make adjustments in the most critical game of the year. So, it's only 15 minutes, but it goes by quick. I've been in locker rooms, sometimes it can feel like the halftime's dragging on a little bit when they're doing stuff, but it just gives you more time to game plan, refresh, your body just gets a little bit more of a break, which, these guys have had a long season. Why not just give them an extra 15 minutes, get ready for the second half of, it's probably the biggest second half of the year. The second half of the Super Bowl is great. It's always a electric environment. I feel like it gives them time to get their mind right, get ready, make adjustments for the final half of the season.
Well, and I'll jump on the same side as you, Zach, although I even though he'll probably never hear this, but I wanted to apologize because all of us forgot to mention that Kendrick Lamar was also there and also performed. Yeah. But I guess like that just kind of goes to show how star-studded the event was, where if a guy like Kendrick Lamar goes to the back of your brain, it just goes to show how good everyone else was, because Kendrick Lamar's part was awesome. There is one thing I want to add though, but I'm in agreement with you, Zach, and clearly, at least for the Rams, it worked out. 7 sacks in the game, 6 of them took place in the second half. So clearly that's the adjustment that they needed, the time that they needed to get the coaching. I would say definitely from a coaching aspect, it's awesome, because I've heard recently, listening to the Pat McAfee show here and Aaron Rodgers talk, when one of the things they asked him is like, hey, when people talk like at halftime, like, oh, halftime adjustments in the NFL. Well, a lot of those players, they'll tell you like, it kind of just depends on the position. It's not like in all those NFL locker rooms, they go and they sit in a big thing and then the coach just yells at people like, we need to fix this, that, or the other. No, a lot of times you use that time to get with trainers to get fixed up. And you might talk to your coordinator, your assistant coaches, or getting the message from the coordinators to run it to a lot of players. And then like the head coach might go, to his coordinators like, hey, we need to adjust this, and might talk to certain key players that he wants to talk to. So a lot of those halftimes kind of feel pretty rushed. When people talk about these halftime adjustments, it's more like a mental one. Like, we need to fix this. Like, this is what you guys need to get done. But I feel like with the Super Bowl, at least, because they have that extra added time where they're still doing the halftime report, and then we get into the Pepsi halftime show, it just gives them a lot of time to say, hey, do those little things, and then like, we're going to meet here, and this is where coach is really going to like talk to us and get us to there. The only, and I'll kind of jump and move things around, is one issue that there was with the Super Bowl halftime show this year was, and this was an issue last year as well, is the fact that the NFL or whoever is producing this halftime show is asking the dancers, and as you guys could see, there were hundreds of dancers that performed at this last one and the one last year, to practice. So they go through all the choreography, they do all the practice for weeks before the show, and then during the show for free. None of them got paid, which is a huge issue, considering like some people are like, oh, well, you get to dance in the Super Bowl. Name one person that danced in the Super Bowl. None of them. And so I think that's definitely a huge issue that needs to be addressed moving forward, is that if they are going to put on these immaculate shows that are talked about, those extras, those performers need to be paid for their time. It's the NFL. It's not like they don't have the cash. So I don't understand why when they're trying to skimp and cut costs, why that, the actual performers that are, risking going out there ending up as a meme if they, spin the wrong way or whatever the heck that happens while they're dancing, why these guys aren't getting paid. That kind of stuff makes no sense to me at all.
So,
yeah, do the performers pay them out of their own pocket, like as like the headliners? Do they pay the dancers at all, or do they just do it for free? I'm sorry, I didn't pick up on that.
No, like the dancers don't get paid a dime.
Screen time. That's
A screen time with what kind of with a special shout out to, here's our list of dancers. Like, there's not even there's no plug, there's no credit for that. Like, you don't get an IMDb credit for being a dancer at the Super Bowl, because no one knows your name, no one knows anything.
Yeah, guys, one other thing I want to go through before we as we're getting close on time here, but I want to go over some to moving forward now. Let me just throw a few things at you, see what you guys think about new coaching hires for some of these teams. Obviously, I'm going to start out with Sean can laugh all he wants to. Chicago Bears hiring Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus.
Good hire. It's a good hire.
What did you thought that was a good hire, Sean?
Yeah, I actually the Bears is the Bears. But I will say, I really like Justin Fields. I've always been impressed with him.
Yeah.
The Bears are one of those teams, like, people might give me shit for this, and I don't care what anybody says, but if Mitchell Trubisky was taken to the Chiefs, he would have been as successful, if not more successful, than Patrick Mahomes, and it's not even a conversation.
I will actually agree with you on that,
but the system that he was put in with the Bears is garbage. I think that him developing in Buffalo is a recipe for potential extreme success wherever he goes next. But the Bears knocked it out of the park with their GM and their head coach hire. I think they become a better team for sure.
My audio might have just cut, but I just hear you guys say that if Mitchell Trubisky was drafted by the Chiefs, he'd be more impressive, if not, or the same, if not more impressive than Patrick Mahomes.
I'm not going to say more. Sean hates Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes is a Patrick. He calls him Ketchup Kermit and everything else like that. But
he is the biggest system quarterback in the NFL.
Talk to him, D. Harv. Talk to him.
The biggest system quarterback in the NFL.
Talk to him, D. Harv.
I'm not even a Chiefs fan, but that is a grade A shit take. That is
I know.
terrible.
Okay, well, no. Let's hear. Give me 3 reasons. Give me a reason. I'd love to hear your reason why it's a shit take, other than Mitchell Trubisky played like shit. Look,
All right, well,
better
he
rookie
did play,
year.
He did play like shit. Better rookie year because Patrick Mahomes didn't play.
If we compare
Patrick
his
Mahomes,
rookie year compared to Patrick
pure arm
Mahomes'
strength
first
and
year,
talent, there's no comparison. I don't even know if anybody likes, Mitchell Trubisky. Everybody loves Patrick Mahomes. People in the locker room like him.
Sean doesn't.
I don't. This is a terrible take.
How can you
never
not like
even heard
Patrick
that.
Mahomes, man? I've never heard someone not like him. I mean, maybe his brother, but like Patrick Mahomes.
This guy right down here.
No.
Right down here.
Mahomes, let me
there.
tell you. So if we look at the system, okay, the successful system that Patrick Mahomes was blessed with, he was blessed with a team that could already make it to the playoffs. Okay, you get Andy Reid, you get one of the best head coaches of all time who struggles late in the playoffs. That's okay. Did he maybe need the quarterback that would get him over the hump? Sure. But what did he also get? He got the 2 best offensive pieces in the NFL, bar none. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Okay. I don't care what anybody says. When those players are off the field, Mahomes is a below average quarterback. He proved that this year. He proved with his play. And again, it's not a real stat, but if you go back, because there are individuals that do the research, that do the looking up, it's not even debatable. Patrick Mahomes was the luckiest quarterback in the NFL for 2 years. More dropped off the hands of DBs, linebacker, interceptions for 2 years in a row. It's not even there's video footage of DBs, linebackers, safeties dropping more interceptions from Mahomes than any other quarterback in the NFL for 2 years straight. With guys like Travis Kelce, with guys like Tyreek Hill, and then you put in the extra puzzle pieces. You bring in these players that want to come to Kansas City to play for Andy Reid, because you have Patrick Mahomes as this icon that people believe. Look what happened. They gave him $500 million. And when they couldn't put the rest of the pieces around him, and he played like garbage this season, and they struggled, and then he had his feints of let's not say that it was Patrick fucking Mahomes that brought them back against the Bills, because it wasn't. What it was a terrible defense and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill who can push the middle of the field. It's not debatable. It's not debatable. You want to talk about greatness, you'll take a quarterback like, again, I'm not even like gonna ride Tom Brady's dick, but Tom Brady did it with Danny Amendola as his number 1 receiver.
Yep, this
so
is true.
It's non-debatable. You go out and give Patrick Mahomes a better offensive line, and then he gets substantially worse this year, and then he's substantially worse when Tyreek Hill. Obviously, he's going to be worse when Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce aren't on the field. But to act like Mahomes, who was put in a winning situation, was already given a winning formula with his first 2 years, a top 10 defense. That is the recipe for success. Then when he loses the defense, they struggle. They don't get the job done against Tampa Bay. When he gets a better offensive line, but then throughout different parts of the season, he loses his weapons, he underperforms. It's not debatable. The reason why I say, if you put Mitchell Trubisky, who his rookie year had extreme flashes of success, okay, and you want to talk about an arm, go watch what Trubisky was bombing down to Allen Robinson. I don't know if you guys just didn't watch Bears games.
I know, I watched.
Trubisky was a phenomenal quarterback his rookie season.
His rookie season, yes.
With what he had,
but he slowly. I do want to get to something
with the Nagy system. I'm telling you, Trubisky and Mahomes garbage, and that's just how it is. And now, and guess what? You guys are going to give him $50 million from now on for the next decade. So congratulations, y'all won't have any players on the team. The whole team's going to be garbage.
Moving forward, Sean, I do want to ask Sean what you're feeling. I know your honest feeling about this, and so the Broncos hiring Nathaniel Hackett as to replace Vic Fangio So he correct me. He was the offensive coordinator.
He was the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers.
So how do you feel?
Former quarterback coach.
Yeah. How do you feel about that move?
Awesome hire for the Broncos.
I agree with that.
Now, mind you, and then the same token, it is also weird because what people don't understand is that he was not the offensive play caller for the team.
Right,
so
right.
That's also
and another one that I found was interesting that was just pinned not too long ago, which was Lovie Smith. They're promoting him to head coach of the Texans. Now, mind you, you mentioned the Bears earlier. Lovie Smith was aside from the first year that what's his name, our coach of the Bears, former coach, but Matt Nagy. Lovie Smith took the Bears to the playoffs, had a 10-6 season, and was fired. And still, to me, I still think Lovie Smith. He's had his rough go. Lovie Smith he coached. Did he coach a year at Tampa Bay?
I don't think as a head coach.
Oh, but he was. So then he coached the Illini, and they did Illini. Even though I'm an Illini fan, they were god awful under him. You know, I think that this is an interesting hire for them. What was it? What was the other one? Oh, Jacksonville Jaguars. They kept Doug.
The Jags.
Yeah, they kept. Let me ask Daniel. That's kind of your little side team there. What do you think about them hiring Doug Peterson as their coach there?
Well, I mean, Urban Meyer really did not pan out quite how the Jags had hoped, but I don't know. It's kind of hard being a Jags fan right now, but you know, we got faith. I got faith in Trevor Lawrence moving forward, and next season's going to be better. We'll put it that way. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well,
I think Doug Peterson's a good hire. You want to, you took a team to the Super Bowl with Carson Wentz and then won it with Nick Foles.
Yep. And the last one I want to mention, which I thought was another interesting hire, was Josh McDaniels as the head coach of the Raiders, and you know, being the former offensive coordinator for the Patriots. So here is another Belichick, you know, underling that goes out, and I look at all the guys who have been under Belichick and have gone out. Some have been subpar, some have been right there. You know, and I thought Josh McDaniels taking the Patriots doing as well as they did this year with, I thought was mediocre talent this year, and doing as well as they did. You know, they had a 10 plus. Didn't they have a 10 plus win season?
Yeah, I think they got 10 wins.
Yeah, and
10 and 7,
10 or 9 or 10.
So
10
I
7.
mean, being able to do that with the team that he had, with a team that they had without Tom Brady, I thought was pretty remarkable to do what they did. And so, I mean, Las Vegas has been, and as a Chiefs fan, I've been, most of the games that I've been to have been versus Raiders fans, and I have never seen a Raiders fan last past the third quarter. I mean, they're usually walking to the doors because, and I mean, talk about booing their own team in our own, and obviously in Arrowhead, but booing. I mean, the Raiders. I thought the Raiders looked strong early on in the year, and then that whole cluster fudge opened up as, you know, all that crap started happening with
Gruden,
with John, yeah,
Henry Ruggs.
And Vega. Even though I hate the Raiders with every passion in my heart, like Sean hates Patrick Mahomes, that's my hatred towards the Raiders. Part of me still wants to see they deserve, you know, to come back into it. So. Anyway, gentlemen, we are at our 1 hour mark, and I just wanted to thank you guys for joining us this evening. Always great when we have the Four Deep guys on. We thank you guys for being part of our, you know, we are on, Sean, this is episode 50 tonight. We are 2 weeks away. We are still talking about what we're going to do with the 52nd, you know, we're going to actually, Sean and I are probably going to talk about it after we get off the air tonight. But, you know, and we definitely love the guys at Four Deep Sports. When you guys are on, we usually have, I'm looking forward tomorrow seeing on our podcast feed go through the roof, because the Four Deep boys, I mean, handsome fellows, easy on the eyes, you know, nice to look at, you know. I just can't wait to give a nice big old manly, you know, tip to tip hug with you guys when we, you know, see each other again.
For sure. Looking forward to that day, V.
Yeah, I will actually reach out to you guys pretty soon, because I would love to have you guys on in the next couple of weeks to kind of talk about like your thoughts on some of the spring football leagues, and then, you know, with the XFL coming back and some hypotheticals of expansion teams, and get your guys' insights on all that stuff. I'd definitely love to get your guys' insight on those things. But as always, again, guys, it's a pleasure to have you on. Let us know the next time you guys want to be on, and we'll definitely have you back anytime, any day. So just give us the holler. Before we do go, though, I would love for you guys to plug everything again one more time before we zip out of here. So let people know where they can find you guys one more time for me.
Yeah, we're Instagram 4deep_sports. Come to us for the best sports takes, pizza reviews, anything and everything. Just give us a follow. DM us if you guys have any, you know, takes or, you know, stuff that you would like to talk to us about. Obviously, thanks to Sean and V for having us on. You know, this is great for us to get out here, talk sports with you guys, and we look forward to doing it again.
Thank you, fellas.
Yeah. So, and for our listeners, whether it's live on Facebook, whether it's live on YouTube or Twitch as well, please make sure to check out our page, Voice of Reason Podcast 2021. Please hit us with that like, that share, and that subscribe. The biggest way that we can grow is by you being a friend and telling a friend. So if you're an individual that listens to us in the morning, whether you guys are driving to work, whether or not you guys are listening in the shower, wherever it is that you guys do give us a listen, please take the time, copy our link, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcast, any
Twitch.
of those,
Twitch.
Twitch as well, whichever one you guys are choosing to view us on, copy it, send it to a friend, say, hey, check these guys out. It might be something that you enjoy, might not be, but the worst case scenario is they might enjoy it and they might pass it on to someone else.
And also to add to this, Sean, I'm always excited about when we get picked up by iHeart. We are now part of the iHeart Radio family, which is very cool. We are under, I'll say this, I cross our fingers. We hopefully will be in on Pandora by the end of the month. And we are also on iTunes Radio. And why I say nobody's heard of iTunes Radio, but iTunes Radio is what goes directly into your Alexa. So just say, hey, Alexa, play the latest episode of the Voice of Reason Podcast 2021, and she will deliver it to you promptly.
Perfect. So yeah, again, everyone, thank you so much. We always enjoy having you, and I can't wait for Travis to be back with us next week, and we will talk with you all then. We hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks, guys.